Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pharmaceutical Soccer. I am so okay to be here. I just don't want to talk about the Miami match, but I'm here with Clay Trainum and Valer Shabilla, which always makes me extremely happy. I love having both of them in my Zoom meeting purview at the current moment. It's very nice. I appreciate it. How are you two doing? How's your weekends?
Good. I'll start because I don't know. I just feel like it. Yeah, welcome back, Valor. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. We missed you last episode. Yeah, me too. It was great though. I'm happy to be back. Anyway, now that I had a conversation with myself, what did I do this weekend? Oh, all right. I watched a whole lot of soccer on Saturday. Started off with the Cane Ridge Elementary Owls. Shout out to the Cane Ridge Elementary Owls. That was my first soccer experience on Saturday morning. Then I watched Arsenal. Big difference. Taller guys. It's crazy. And then I watched some NSC, of course, but also a whole lot of MLS Saturday night. And then Sunday, I went to the nearest green distillery in Shelbyville, Tennessee, and learned a whole lot of history, tasted some whiskey. It was a good time. So, yeah, it was a successful weekend.
I will say I didn't know that they did it. They did MLS 360 up until 11:30 or until the last two major games are done. That's very nice to have MLS 360 that late going on. I very much appreciated it. I watched a lot of soccer this weekend too.
They pretty much stopped it after the first half of the last games, but I mean, yeah, it's the show can use some improvement, I think, but overall, I'm very happy that we have something like that versus not having something like that.
Clay, how's
Yeah,
your
it makes
weekend?
it. I was to say it makes that sort of thing makes it feel more important because it makes it feel like
Mhm.
you're not just lost in some app watching something with only people who care about the particular game. It makes it feel like a more important league when you have a show like that. My weekend was fine. I was seeing family in Atlanta, and I, of course, watched the Nashville game. But really, the big thing is that I saw my nephew's team play soccer at a probably slightly lower level than Cane Ridge Elementary. But and then I also, of course, watched Everton beat Nottingham Forest, which was very cathartic for your boy. So shout out to Everton of the Toffees, and I don't really care what Nottingham Forest has to say afterwards.
Well, that's cool. But yeah, I had a good weekend as well. Again, I watched a lot of soccer. Unfortunately, I love watching all of my soccer teams lose. I also had the opportunity to go to a lot of matches this weekend, and
At
it did
least you've watched your team win a lot of weekends.
I did not go to I was going to go to three soccer matches and did not go to a single one. Both the Spirit, Loudoun United were both at home. And then DC United had a bus trip to New York, which I did almost go on because Screaming Eagles do a free bus to New York. So I almost went on that, but I ended up not doing that. So I just sat at home and unfortunately watched Nashville.
I feel like Steven signing for Loudon will end up being a shorter running joke than Steven almost going to a Loudon game, which has now
Oh,
happened like four times since he
I
was
was gonna
in DC.
say, I mean, it's been a month. You're teasing this going to a soccer game. I mean, like, what is the end game here? Do you not want to go and just are like you're trying to commit to going? Like, you don't have to go, dude. Like, just watch it on TV. It'll be fine. I
We
don't
can
know.
be your accountability buddies and just start texting you about you need to be on your way to Loudon at this point in time.
It's like Google reminders. Like, if you want to make it to Audi Field, you must leave by now.
It's about time. I mean, look, this is what I've been looking for you guys my entire existence is accountability buddies here, and we're finally here at this point. This is exactly what I've wanted to be at. But yeah, we got to talk about unfortunately our team, Nashville SC, the team that we've started this podcast on. Uh, I sent a message. I'm still a part of some of the group ISC, like the Independent Supporters Council, like chats and stuff like that. I sent a message to them on Saturday just asking. This is the first time even like since USL and just MLS in general, that I've experienced our team just being bad. And I don't know what that is like at the current moment. It's very, this is an interesting time to say the least. I don't know. Where do you guys want to start off?
You go. You're doing the Monday poll, so you go.
Oh, you want me to talk about the Monday poll?
Yes.
Fantastic. I can absolutely talk about the Monday poll.
You say
So,
you're doing it, right?
huh?
You're
He
doing
did.
it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Oh, okay,
absolutely said I
okay.
would talk about the Monday poll. So
Okay.
we did put out a poll this Monday for our Monday poll episode that we normally do on how many points will Nashville gain in the next five matches, because for the four out of the five of those at home, already have 82 votes after an hour, which is terrific. I will say that isn't that last week we had even a little bit more than that, yeah?
Well, last week I don't know what y'all had because you didn't do a Monday poll.
2 weeks
It's
ago we had more than that.
Yeah, we had like 300 2 weeks ago. People were very mad. It depends on the question. The madder people are, the more likely they're to vote. So I'm trying not to rile people up in the morning, but also engagement. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think 2 weeks ago there was a lot more to be riled up about than this week. I mean, I guess I don't know if it's just
Say that too loud.
is it just exit. But anyways, the poll results, we asked how many points will Nashville gain in the next five games. 40% with 0 to 5, 53% with 6 to 10, and then 6% with 11 to 15 points. I
Shout
don't
out
know.
to
Where
that
do you
6%.
Wait,
shots
Clay,
landed
is that what you think?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow.
I'm just here for that sort of optimism.
It's
So, so
rubbing it's rubbing off on 6% of our fans, Clay. If you keep going, it might increase to 7 or 8%.
I will say this though. I think there is clearly the way this poll kind of plays out is that there's a lot of pessimism, of course, with Nashville SC, and as we've talked about, this is probably the lowest we've seen that fans react to the club. I do think 0 to 5 points is. I know that's kind of what they've been averaging, about a point a game. So I understand why people are going for that. But looking at the schedule, I think they have an opportunity to get at least a couple wins out of that, even maybe go undefeated and just get a few draws and a win or two.
I
I
mean,
think that's
if we get 0 to 5 in the next five, heads should roll. I mean, there's
yeah.
no if
I think that would be detrimental to the to the remaining season of Nashville SC.
Yeah, I think that it's easy to be obviously very upset in the current state of affairs for Nashville SC, but it's quite a bit different when your last four games are away to LAFC and away to Inter Miami and home games against Columbus and Philadelphia. And then when your next four games are San Jose, Montreal, Charlotte, and Toronto, three of those at home. So
Yeah, and I think looking at Montreal away is a very hard match. I don't think that there will be 3 points there, but San
Montreal's
Jose
at
at
home.
home. What's that?
Montreal's
Montreal's
at
at home.
home.
Oh, sorry, Charlotte away. Never mind. Charlotte away should not be a very difficult match. I misread the schedule. But I think you're playing. I mean, even if you're just looking at points and where they are on the standings, you're playing the lower teams, right? I mean, Atlanta is always going to be a wild match because it's Atlanta, but it's at home. It's different. But the other four are very winnable, I would say. Especially San Jose and Toronto, who are going through very tough stretches this time of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. Right, like we went through the tough part of our schedule right in the beginning. Like, oh, we went through the Champions Cup stuff. I mean, we're finished away in Miami now. Like San Jose, we talked about this even last week or 2 weeks ago, that San Jose is going to be a lot more of an important match to see where this team actually is in comparison to where we started the season. If we can beat those bad teams at home, because San Jose is bad, even though they did almost come back last night. They're not a good team, and we should be able to beat them. Valer, I know you had me go over the poll because of the fact that you did not want to talk for 15 minutes straight. So Everybody, please welcome to this week's episode of Valaired Out, a podcast within a podcast involving Valair Shabilla as he completely airs out his grievances and things going on in his life and world, whether it comes to his life or the Nashville journalism reporting spectrum. So, Valair, welcome to Valaired Out.
Thank you for welcoming me for my own show. Okay, this is going to be a quick one. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I very rarely do I get somebody kind of message me or something, and it's something that is very negative or what's the word I'm looking for here? Borderline disrespectful, I guess, or disrespectful at times to me personally or to people I work with. If you want to be mad about the team, be negative about the team, I get those messages, every hour. It's whatever. I get it. You're a fan of the team, and that's all it is. I don't like it when people talk to me in a way that it is disrespectful, as most people, don't enjoy that. And there's just been a couple of messages. So out there about maybe my coverage or fear of losing access, which is why I won't speak out about certain things. I've been critical when I need to be critical, and I've been positive when I need to be positive, and I've been, I don't know, giving my opinion for 6 years about this club the same exact way that I would give my opinion, almost the same exact way as I'd give my opinion in private as I am in public. So if someone has grievances with that or doesn't like my opinion, it's fine. I don't expect you to agree with me. I don't want you to agree with me for the most part because I like arguing. But if you don't question my credibility and don't be disrespectful towards me or anybody that I work with, because this is a labor of love, and people put a lot of work and effort into this. And look, if you don't like my coverage, you don't like our coverage as Pharma, it's completely fine. It's not for everybody. If you want hot takes and you want people screaming that people should be fired at every moment, there are shows out there for you, I'm sure. And there are people doing that for you. And if you don't have that for you, go create your own show, because that's what we did. We saw that somebody wasn't doing what we're doing, and we created our own show. And that's that. Sorry. I'll that it's been Valaired out.
I would just like to add to that when he says it's a labor of love, that's not a joke. We do want you to support our Patreon, which, by the way, at Pharma Soccer on patreon.com. But the idea that anybody's getting paid to prop up MLS or to prop up Nashville SC when this thing operated at a deficit for the first several years is kind of funny. Also, just generally speaking, the idea that we have access is just hilarious to me because only Valair does. And that was only after 5 years. So
I also
it's one of those things that just always makes me laugh. Like, this is truly an independent show, independent of basically anybody's influence except our own. And we're supporters. I think that we operate in a way that makes sense. I'm usually too positive. Steven's usually too negative, and Valaire's usually in the middle.
I am not normally too negative. That is ridiculous.
He did do a Fire Gary episode, 3 matches into a season once?
Yeah, I have grown as a human. I have absolutely, wow. If we're going to go back and just state everything that was said from episodes 3 or 4 years ago, then this would be wild.
Anyway, so I was trying to make a point about someone being a little bit more reactionary, and I couldn't finish the point because Steven wanted to make sure he said something about it. So,
but no, I think I think people's opinions are fine. I just don't want this to come out as in like, oh, your opinion is wrong or anything. You can have your opinion, just like don't be a douche about it. I don't know. I had other words in mind there, but just you can have your opinion and say it, but like I am not who you need to be angry about. I don't make any decisions for Nashville SC. That's all.
But if you do have your opinions and you want it aired on this show, all you have to do is go to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review. And if you leave a 5-star review, we will read it on this show. And so there's two of them. The first one is from Lando Calrissian 25. I don't believe the real Lando Calrissian, because there is no real Lando Calrissian because he's a TV show or a movie character. And it is top notch. And then the comment is Valair asked, so I listened. So thanks, Lando.
Shout out Lando. I always liked Donald Glover. Isn't that the
Thanks,
same
Lando.
character?
Shut
Yeah.
up, Blair. Jeez.
What? What?
Oh my
Isn't
God,
it
you
Donald
just
Glover?
aged yourself. Oh my God.
I
Anyways,
mean, one version of him is that is correct.
I know,
Okay.
but not that's fine. Okay. What's the other 5-star review?
Star Wars is nerdy and I don't care for it. Sorry, I said it.
As the man who's watched the Marvel movies,
Yeah, I
probably,
care about those.
but that's a different type of nerdy. Fine.
We have another one um, from It Is Sini or It Is Eni. I'm not sure. Either way, it is front office expectations versus fan expectations. And this one's gaming it correctly because they're asking a question in the review because we
Mm-hmm.
have to read it.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, based on roster signings in the last 3 years, it seems that the club is satisfied with minimal spending and just being competitive. Banking on that we can make the playoffs and hopefully catch fire. Is our style of play a consistent winning formula? What expectations do you think the fans should have for this season?
Yeah, I'll take this, I guess, for a minute. I mean, I think Nashville SC spends less than the top-notch teams in MLS. I think that's fair to say. I also think they spend more than the lower spending teams. So they're kind of, well, I don't think that is just the truth. I mean, Sam Surridge is a $6-7 million striker. Before that, Ake Lobo was a $6 million striker. It's not that they aren't spending, they're just not spending as much as an LAFC or an Atlanta. I hated when Nashville SC officials come out and say that they're saying that Nashville can't be an LAFC or Atlanta. And I don't know why. I understand from a city perspective that you'll never have the same pull, but from a money perspective, I think they can. I think they have the money to spend if they wanted to. Again, I understand that Nashville is in Tennessee and LA is in California, and given any player, most people would go to California. But Columbus got Cucho. Cincinnati has Luciano Costa. So it's not like unheard of. Nashville has Mukhtar. Like, you've done it before. You know what I mean? Like, you can do it again.
Yeah, it's not like you're trying to sign the best players in the world to play in MLS. Because Messi aside, that's just not what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to sign competitive players from overseas. So, yeah, it's going to be hard to compete for a name player, but you don't necessarily have to be a name player to be one of the best players in MLS. And even then, sometimes if you do it the right way, you can sign a name player at the end of their career, regardless of where you are. Because I'd like to remind you, because it's still one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. James Rodriguez played an entire year for Everton. So
Yeah.
you can sign people.
And I think just to answer the expectation part, I think fans have every right to have an expectation that's a little higher than what Nashville has provided this season, because it's been a building up to this point. I mean, Nashville played 4 seasons in MLS, pretty much they made the playoffs in every single one. There were improvements every single one. They have the MVP player, they have the Golden Boot winner, they have Defender of the Year players, they made CCC. It's all improvements, right? So I think the expectation should be to win a trophy and to come to that towards the end of the season. Obviously, with the Open Cup gone, the trophy sort of margins are narrower. But overall, I think the expectation should be that Nashville next logical step is to win a trophy. And I think that's where the fan expectations need to be, because that's where the organization and the players' expectation are.
We have some team news that we do need to talk about before we do talk about the Miami match in itself. And then I have a fun bit that I am going to play with Clay and Blair in the next segment. So we'll do that right here next on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at Pharma Soccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And as Clay talked about in the first segment, we also have a Patreon. Help support the show. Please help keep the lights on. We really appreciate that. And all of our people that we do have as Patreons right now, You'll get mentioned on the show just like you would if you do a 5-star review. But would love you to help support the show. We would really appreciate it. And again, it helps Valair move on to his new career, as we stated.
Wait. I didn't do it.
I
Okay,
know.
I had another Valerian out.
I know you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second edition of Valair It Out with Valair Shabilla. Valair,
Yeah.
welcome to the show.
What's up with all the rumors you both were trying to start about me like leaving town unless people sign up for Patreon? Why are you using my name like that? I'm not leaving.
No, we were doing it to try and convince. It's a bait and switch, Valer.
Well, the main thing about bait and switch is that you don't tell people it's a bait and switch.
It's just rumors, and as we've learned from each of us following English teams, rumors don't actually mean anything.
Right. Okay, well, I don't think it worked. We didn't get anybody to sign up. So.
That's true. It did not, unfortunately.
So I'm leaving the show. Long story short.
Yeah, he's leaving the show unless you sign up for the Patreon right now.
But a rumor that did not come into anybody's inbox that actually ended up being completed was Nashville, a team that does not have a ton of depth at the current moment, decided to trade away a piece of that depth to the Houston Dynamo before the match against Miami. It was announced that Miami Gaines was traded to the Dynamo for undisclosed.
Gaines, not Miami Gaines.
Mackenzie, sorry.
Yes. Miami Gaines sounds like a GTA thing.
And it was more of a Miami losses this week anyway, not gains.
Mackenzie Gaines traded to the Dynamo. Was there an amount attached to that?
Well, it hasn't been completed yet. It hasn't been completed, but it's not a rumor. It's a report. I think we need to clarify that. So my colleague at Broadway Sports, Ben Wright, is reporting that Mackenzie Gaines will be traded to the Houston Dynamo. It has not been completed yet. I don't think so. But probably news comes out soon. Mackenzie Gaines was not on the bench against Miami, which kind of lead to that. And specific amount of GAM, I'm sure once the trade is actually complete, we'll know how much. Can be the whole lot. But I will go ahead and tell you that while I understand that this trade is I think this trade makes sense for everybody. I think the one part that I'm kind of hung up on is that it's just bad optics. You're losing. Nashville SC is in the worst form ever currently in their existence. They need everything they can get. Your coach goes out publicly and says, "I need more reinforcements," and then a week later you trade a reinforcement player. So I just think the optics are bad. Honestly, in terms of the trade itself, Mackenzie Gaines barely got any minutes, even when guys were injured, and there didn't seem to be a plan for him to get more minutes for Nashville SC this season. So I wasn't shocked that he was traded. I just think the optics of it and the timing of it might have been a little off for Nashville's case.
I think one of the criticisms that has been leveled, sometimes fairly, at Mike Jacobs is that he does moves to do moves sometimes. And what I mean when I say that is like you said, Gaines is not getting a ton of minutes. He doesn't have a big impact. If someone's interested in him, it makes sense to move on just from a pragmatic standpoint because you're not going to use them and you can get value. Now, that being said, they're an injury away from him being important again, because that's the nature of the league. If you don't have depth, you struggle, which we've seen this season with Nashville. And so my hope is that it's not that, but we've seen that move before. So my hope that it's not that, and maybe there's another related roster move, whether it's using the GAM or using the roster spot or something like that, which we don't have any reports on. But let's say that if they were moving him on and ultimately that created a slot, an international slot at some point, but it created a slot to bring in Forster Ajago, then suddenly that move makes sense for everybody. Now there's also the player side of it. Mackenzie Gaines is a little bit older in his career. Maybe he's just looking for somewhere to play and made his feelings know that he wanted to go back to Texas and they found a slot for him in Houston. So yeah, bad optics, but not necessarily a bad move.
I muted, but Nashville within that same report from Ben Wright, he does say that Nashville are planning a summer move, so it won't be anything in the next couple of months, but probably for the summer window you'll see that. I don't think his salary was anything that they needed to get off, but I think that roster spot is kind of what it's going to be used for. So we'll
And
see what comes out of it.
As Valera mentioned, he was not on the bench for Miami, which is a game that we do have to talk about. Unfortunately, Miami losing in Miami, I believe, what, 3-1 to Miami, of course. Lionel Messi getting 2 goals and Busquets getting one. And on our side, we didn't score, they did. That's how the game turned out. Looking at the starting lineup, definitely looks like, you know, with the injuries that we do have, having Lucas McNaughton back on the pitch was fantastic, as long as we had Lucas McNaughton on the pitch, who had to be carried off on a stretcher at before half, I believe it was, unfortunately. I mean, look, I think the easiest and best place to start this, unfortunately, is Elliot Panico, who had done a lot to earn a spot for this game, but unfortunately, just it took a toll on him, it seems like.
Yeah, I think we're big fans of Elliot Panico here on this show. I think everybody has said that he's been pretty good every time he's come on. There has been a couple of mistakes, but that's kind of common really for a player who hasn't been playing as often. But I don't think anything kind of amounted to the amount of mistakes and things that happened in the Miami first half. I will say in that same first half, Panico had a couple big saves, and Gary Smith made sure to note that. So I asked Gary specifically about Panico, and he said, he earned his spot and he did really well. But the reason he pulled him out at halftime is because he just thought that if Panico stayed in there, he would essentially be more affected by those mistakes, and he wanted somebody to go in there instead of him to protect him more than anything. And I think that's a fair assessment. I don't think Gary Smith was just kind of like doing some media talk thing. I think that's fair because if there was another mistake from Panico in that second half, I think some bridges would have been burned. And I think the situation is still salvageable with just one half of a bad performance that also was coupled with 2 really good saves.
Yeah, I mean, it just looked like a guy who lost focus, honestly, and maybe that's losing focus because he makes a bad pass and that sticks with him longer than it should for a goalkeeper. Um, the good thing is like the problem that he had was like akin to a baseball player having the yips. It's something that they can do that for whatever reason in that moment they can't make the throw to first base. Like Panico just could not bring the ball under control and he couldn't pass effectively and it was hampering every other part of his game. Even so, while he was still making the saves, he was putting himself in a worse position. And that's twofold. You got a team that's not very confident defensively, generally speaking. And then now you have a goalkeeper that the team can't really feel confident about in that moment. Probably not long term there, but in that moment, everybody's thinking about, is he going to make this pass? Or if I'm going to pass the ball back to him, is he going to be able to gather it? You don't want your team dealing with that sort of situation already when you're playing the team at the top of the table with the best player in the world on it. So it was going to hurt his confidence either way, whether he stayed out there and made another mistake or whether he came out. If you're going to hurt his confidence in the way that keeps the team still in the game.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was really unfortunate just because it seemed like that first 10 minutes that Nashville had a game plan and the game plan was kind of there. I mean, we scored in, a couple minutes. I think if it wasn't an own goal, it would have been a goal, by one of our defenders. We were really putting the press on them, making even though Miami has, again, the best player in the world, we were putting the press on them, making sure they were not able to get out of their half. But definitely after that Miami goal, just the dynamics kind of changed a decent amount. I still am not sure about this 3 in the back, with Daniel Lovitz as a center back as a long-term, play. I don't necessarily know what Gary's intention is with going with this 3 back because it seems like it's happened a couple. I don't know if it's just based on the players that we do have available. But yeah, I mean, Nashville just didn't seem like they had it.
I will say this. I think, it's one of those things I hinted on the last episode that we could see something like this where we see Nashville respond in a way and play better and show a lot of good signs, but you can't really judge it because it's a Miami team that will punish you for a lot of mistakes. And unfortunately, that's kind of what we said. I sent a text message to a friend of the pod, Aaron, who's my seatmate at games, and I said, Nashville's losing 2-1, and I somehow feel better about Nashville than I have in the last month. Like because they looked like they had a plan attacking wise and they went out for it and it didn't come off. And that's the problem is, finishing still an issue. Um, Obviously defensive lapses are still there, but in terms of like generating chances, looking comfortable on the ball, things like that, there's a lot to like from this game, despite the 3-1 scoreline. No excuses for the defensive side of it, but there I'm going into San Jose more confident following a 3-1 loss than I would have been if you told me before the game that Nashville was going to lose that game 3-1.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of stretches where Nashville were the better team, and honestly, a couple more finishes here and there, and you talking about at least a draw, if not a win for Nashville SC. But I'll go back to what Steven was saying. That first 10 minutes or so, Nashville looked incredible. It was Miami were caught off guard. It should have been 2-0. Josh Bauer, unfortunate there, he hit the bar. Um, but really, I mean, Nashville had control over the whole game. The thing is, it's unrealistic to expect Nashville to play like that for 90 minutes. That's not really how teams play soccer. What you do expect is that when Nashville stop the press and when Miami gets a stretch where they have the ball, that at that point, Nashville needs to be organized enough in the back to allow for Miami players to maybe get a little angrier, a little more on edge, and then take advantage of them again. Because the thing is, if you look at the high pressing teams, like a St. Louis, for example, they're not high pressing every single moment of the game. Maybe they'll do it more than others. Red Bulls will obviously do it more than others. But even now, Red Bulls this season, they're not just going at it the whole entire time. There are moments, the pressing is a thing you do as a team, and Nashville was doing it as a team really well in the first 10 minutes. But then that has to be coupled with the defensive stability at the back, because once the other team has the ball, you can't let Messi run at you like that and score a goal on the ground while your defenders are nowhere to be found. And then same thing happened on the second goal for Miami, where it's a set piece, and Nashville were a good set piece team. So I don't know what happened there, but all of a sudden they're not. They gave up another set piece goal with Busquets getting a free header. And then the third goal was another individual mistake where Josh Bauer made a tackle that didn't need to be made. I mean, the Miami player was going outside of the box. His back was almost to the goal. There's no need to do that, but it still did that. And I think that's kind of those are the little mistakes that will hold Nashville back. Now go into the three at the back again. I don't know yet. I am still making up my mind about it. I think in theory it will and should work. I like Dan Lovitz playing more left back than a center back, but Jacob Schaffelberg playing as a wing back might be the move here. I think I'm starting to like that a little bit more, simply because it leaves another space for somebody like a Tyler Boyd or a Sam Surridge to kind of run into some space on the right side, and Hani Mukhtar, of course. But I think I'm still, the jury's still out on it. I think I need a couple more games with it to really be understand whether or not that I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we talk about like how Nashville struggled to get anything going, but they're starting to get a little healthier. I mean, McNaughton got hurt, but obviously Leal came back in the game, and then it becomes a bit of a selection dilemma, which is a great problem to have. How can I get the most, in this case, attacking players, but the most effective players on the field at the same time playing together? And if Schaffelberg can do that, then that opens up another slot. And then suddenly you've got a really good attacking team creatively going forward. There is a problem of the defensive side, which, he might be able to do. It's just like Nashville has been dealing with depth issues all year. So we haven't really seen this selection dilemma pop up, but we very much expect it, hopefully, if the team gets healthy. And then that could make the attack look even a little bit more fluid and maybe a little bit more confident, because that was something that was definitely missing at times against Miami.
Well, I mean, definitely the player with the highest XG on the pitch didn't score once, unfortunately. So like
Mukhtar
it's
was one-on-one with the keeper and passed it.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that could, like, your tweet there, like, still had me like the fact that he did not take that shot and tried to pass it off is still something. Um, Look, I think kind of the best way to go about the rest of this, just because I think this Miami match is definitely, a microcosm to the season where it comes to a few mistakes that have led this team to where they are. Um, what we've noticed just from the outside looking in, there's a lot of people that have ideas for how to fix the team in multiple different microcosms, whether it could be coaching, like getting rid of Gary, all that type of stuff. So I wanted to pose that question on the both of you. And if I were this person, what would you do to change things? So I would like to start off with, if you were Gary Smith, you have injuries you have to deal with. You have, like, something needs to change so you can keep your job being a part of this team. So if you were Gary Smith, what would you do to ensure that your job is still there come the end of the season?
Show up to practice every day. That would be the first thing I'd do. Um, no, I think for Gary, I think he's doing a lot of the things he needs to do. It's more about, honestly, what how can you talk to the players and make them believe in themselves again? I think tactically, he's been around for so long. Tactically, they know what they need to do. It makes sense on paper, on the field. It makes sense what they need to do. I don't think it's an instruction issue with the players. I think it's more of a belief issue. I think it's more about a confidence issue. So, as a leader of men, how do you sit there and get them back to that confidence? I think would be what's keeping me up as Gary Smith. How can I get Hani Mukhtar to go back and be Golden Boot winner? How can I get Sam Surridge to finish those chances? And I don't think that's technical. I really don't think that's like a skill thing. I think it's more about mental. Uh, so I would maybe go outside the box a little bit. Maybe I'll try to do some other some other things in terms of team building, or maybe something even to kind of shock everybody a little bit, and just reset things. Maybe a quick change here or there. Maybe bring in a Huntsville player or two. Maybe include them at the last 15 minutes of a match. See what happens. I think there just needs to be a little bit more risk taken from Gary Smith. And I know his whole thing is that he doesn't take that many risks. But I think you're at this point of the season, you might need a little bit of a change. You might need a little bit of a kick to get everybody started. And then the other thing I would do if I'm Gary Smith, I don't know if this is more of a Mike thing, so maybe it's a Mike Jacobs thing, but I would go on whatever platform they have and I would search for a set piece coach, and I would hire that coach to come to Nashville and have him teach the players how to be on set pieces again. That would be my other thing.
I do believe that would be more of a Mike thing, but I kind of agree with Valer, although I'm not sure I'd totally buy making anything that would be a rash change. I think bringing in the Huntsville folks at a certain point, you have to expect the players to do their jobs. And I think that, I mean, I know that Valer posted the clip of him like just so frustrated on the sidelines on our Twitter the other day. And I mean, that's the way it must feel to Gary Smith. I mean, he had that reaction to a bad pass from Panico that set up a chance for Miami, and it's like you can only you've led them to the water. They have to do the drinking themselves. And that's the part where what you don't want to do is try and make a big change to try and do something too different. And then, that costs you even more. It's funny. I mean, I know I'm relating it back to Everton, but honestly, the finishing thing is something that has plagued Everton all season because they were one of the worst in terms of XG. They create a bunch of XG and don't finish any of it. And what they tried to do last week was go play a different way at Chelsea. And what happened is they lost 6-0. And so what did they do the weekend? They went back to playing exactly the way they had been playing, but Sean Dyche wore a tracksuit instead of a suit, and they won 2-0. So maybe if you're Gary Smith, change the attire. Let's get back on the Gary Smith fit tracker and see if that can lead to any sort of change. But I don't think you want to get like too far out of your skis because you look at the Miami game, you got an XG over 2. You look at the last few games. I know XG is not perfect, but I'm just using this as a general barometer. It's over 1.5, I think, in most of those games. For most Nashville teams, that's good enough to win a game. So figuring out the defensive side, being a little bit more mistake free, which is impossible to do generally, but like just a little bit closer to that could change everything. And that's a confidence issue. So, like Blair said, what can you do to make the team more confident? That's the problem.
Which, by the way, I still have been tracking Gary Smith's outfit, and it has changed a lot more this season instead of just being the same outfit over and over again. And no matter what outfit he is wearing, it currently has not helped the team. But
Be
anyways,
rash on that. Make a rash outfit change.
I mean,
Come out with a cowboy hat and a parka.
I have a toupee on, and let's rock it. Let's do it. No, I like it. I think confidence is definitely going to be a big thing. I think just a little bit different from like just honestly the complete opposite of Blair when it comes to taking risks. I think Gary needs to get back to what works and what has worked before. Have confidence in your players to be able to pull, two center back off, try to get the ball into Hani, just getting it to Hani as much as humanly possible. There's a reason he has over 50% of this team's goal contributions and in goals in the club's history. And it got to get him back in that. I don't know. Like, that's the one thing. Confidence is going to be a big thing. And if Gary can do that, fantastic. But get back to what works. I mean, an amazingly defensive team and getting the ball in the Hani's hands. And that has proven to be successful. Okay. If you were Mike Jacobs, obviously there's a lot of roster things kind of going on. I believe the actual window closes on Tuesday, correct? The domestic window closes on Tuesday.
Yes.
If you were Mike Jacobs, are you happy with the roster that we have, or is there some changes that you would make?
Well, I think he is happy with the roster Nashville has. I don't know. I don't know if he thinks it's a cup winning roster. I think he's happy with it the way it is. And I don't want to put any words in his mouth or anything like that. But if you're asking me if I was him, what I would do to this roster currently, I would, what I said about Gary, multiplied by 10. Go and take a risk on a couple U22 players. That's the first thing I'd do. Thing is, they are a risk, and most times they don't work, but they're not going to hit your cap that high. And you could have a 19, 20, 21-year-old winger who unlocks things for you. And yeah, maybe they're not going to be consistent. Maybe they're not going to score every game or assist every game, but you can also have a Thiago Almada or somebody like that can come out of that. So it's not easy. But I am making it sound a lot easier than what it is. You can't just go and pick somebody up from the Brazilian league and expect them to perform. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that risk has been averted so many times by Nashville SC because they've been bitten by it. We all know Miguel Nazarite, who got paid $1 million for 3 years and didn't play a single minute for Nashville SC.
Rodrigo Pinheiro.
We all know Rodrigo Pinheiro, who played 17 minutes for Nashville SC or something like that. And there's a couple other examples maybe, but overall that market is not something Nashville SC is using. Now, it doesn't have to be a South American player. It doesn't have to come from the Argentine or Brazilian league. And it doesn't have to be someone who is all of a sudden going to become an important player for Nashville SC, but maybe somebody you can build upon. Even if it's somebody who goes to Huntsville. I don't know why they aren't taking more risks with that. They are taking more risks in Huntsville with some of the players, but I think there's an opportunity for them to go higher and get a couple more people in terms of recruitment. That would be the first thing I'll do differently.
I was going to say, I do think that is the way that they're trying to utilize Huntsville, it seems, because they've gone pretty weird internationally on some of those guys. And I don't mean weird in a bad way. I just mean like in places we haven't seen Nashville look. Uh, Mike has been pretty risk averse. He's also, a former college coach, and he's been pretty big about getting college players in. So I think I would agree on the majority of that. Obviously, the U22 thing is a huge thing that Nashville really hasn't taken advantage of. But I think that might fall into the next point that Steven's going to bring up, the next question, because Mike is limited on some of the things he can do by people above him. He's been happy to be limited, it seems. We haven't heard a whole lot of pushback on that front. So maybe if I were Mike Jacobs, the thing that I would be doing is pushing to have a little bit more financial freedom, because that's how they got Sam Surridge. They were able to free up the money to get rid of Ake Lobo, which wasn't working, and bring in Sam Surridge.
I mean, look, I have the solution that Mike Jacobs needs. This
Can I
man,
guess what you're gonna say?
yes, you can.
John Urquidez.
Dang it. Why do you ruin it? This man has 15 goals now in the Portuguese league. Bring back Jonder Cadiz. 15 goals. 15 for Jonder.
Cadiz and Surridge in front of Mukhtar would be incredible. I'm not gonna lie. I would love to see that. I mean, never gonna happen because like who's playing with like two, strikers in 2024? But
that would be the most like FIFA move to make, and I would be here for it. Okay. If you were look, if you were Ian Ayre or John Ingram right now, look, this team was built on the fact that we have Gary Smith, Mike Jacobs, and Ian Ayre working out in tandem. And it has been talked about multiple times that Ian Ayre, last year, he's just like we have the opportunity and we have the team to do this. And now here we are this year. Is it time for you guys to make a dramatic change, or do we need more on building off of what we have?
Look, if I'm Ian Ayre and I want Jonder Cadiz to also play with Sam Surridge up top, the drastic change I'm making is bringing David Moyes in as coach, because that is a man who's proven he can win with big, tall guys up top over and over and over again. Moyes might be available. There's your dramatic change.
No, we are not the rumor mill. I want people to enjoy this show. That's not us.
Okay, that was just a joke. But if I'm Ian Ayre, John Ingram, what I do, I don't think that I deviate from the plan as it is, but I try and do what I can to bolster it. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to make a dramatic change, this team has been built over years around a specific playing style, like around specific players. And if you've invested that, I know there's a sunk cost fallacy, but if you've invested that much time and money into it, it makes more sense to invest more money into it than it does to wipe the slate clean and try and start over. So that's where I start. Use money, use the U22 spots, give them more money to build this team so that it can be competitive. Now, if you're Ian Ayre and John Ingram and you don't think that they can do that, then you make the drastic change. And I think that you can make an argument that this team can't do that. I don't know that I agree, but I think you can make that argument. And if that's the way you feel, then yeah, don't waste any time. Go ahead and start the changes now. That's what Cincinnati did. Cincinnati saw something that didn't work. They made the change. They had a rough year, but after that change, they made the playoffs and then they won a trophy. So like, if you think that it's not going in the right direction, there's no reason to just sit around and hope it goes in the right direction. But if you think you can change that direction, then use it.
yeah, I think I agree with everything Clay said there. The one thing I'll say is that we're missing a big piece here, which is what is available for Mike Jacobs. What is Ingram actually giving to Mike Jacobs, and we know what Mike Jacobs is doing with it because we can see that. But the piece that's missing is the connection between those two. So if Ingram has already given him, money, everything he's asked for and more, then yeah, I think it's time to maybe put a little bit more pressure on. But if Ingram has been holding back, then I think, I think it's time for him to stop holding back. So we just don't know that situation. But if I was Ingram, I would try to fix it with the pieces I have currently. And if, like Clay said, if there's no solution there, then I'll move on as quickly as I can.
I mainly just wanted to ask you those questions because I had no idea if I was those three. So I wanted to put it on the two experts in the space of what they would do. So I appreciate you both answering, dealing with my shenanigans. It's very much appreciated. But look, there was a wild weekend in MLS that we should talk about that I mean, some of it has to deal with Nashville SC. And then we have another match against San Jose that we need to predict and talk about. So we'll do that next here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer, of course, at Pharma Soccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And we also have a Patreon where you can go and help Valair move on in his career to his new position in places that he's dreaming of going to, of course, as we talked about in the last episode. So please, shout out to our Patreon members. Help send Valair off to a better place.
That sounds like I'm dying.
Pharmasoccer.com as well. We have a website. So that's always fun. Go check that out. Anyways, it was a wild weekend for MLS. A lot of interesting matches that happened. Even last night, that Galaxy San Jose match was kind of crazy. Obviously, we'll talk about San Jose more in a little bit. I mean, the one thing I will say is at least we're not as bad as San Jose or New England when it comes to just being bad. Actually, that's a really good question. Who do you think gets let go first, Gary Smith or Caleb Porter?
Caleb Porter. I think it's much easier to get rid of a coach who just hired a few months ago than a coach you've been with for 7 years. I think, but yeah, MLS has some cool things out there, man. It's every weekend we say this because it's a pretty entertaining league. I don't know. I mean, if you don't watch anything else, I would go back and definitely watch maybe the wrap up or catch a little bit of 360. I do like the wrap up a lot. It's a good format. I do wish the Sunday games were included in it somehow, like maybe retroactively they go back and add them a little bit. But just for the Saturday slate, which is most of the games, I love watching the wrap up. It gives you a good perspective on the league, and obviously they're covering the big stories, so you're not going to get you're not going to get that Jacob Schaffelberg run or whatever, but you are going to get a good understanding of what's happening around the league.
I did really appreciate in the at the end of the MLS 360 show, their trivia question that they had was involving Nashville on who was the first MLS signing for Nashville SC. That was really fun to have, especially
Daniel Rios.
Oh yeah, and they even showed like a picture of him with his face blurred out. But it was just really fun to be like, wow, we just had this match against Miami, and Nashville is the trivia question that's being had right now.
I did have a little bit of a twitch when they pulled out his first Nashville SC goal and it wasn't a USL goal, and I was like, oh, come on, guys! They didn't say the first Nashville SC MLS goal or anything like that. They just said his first Nashville SC goal, and it was at Nissan Stadium, and I was like, well, dang, okay, well, I guess they're not showing the USL goals.
Both he and Cam Lancaster scored on their debut.
Yeah. One of those had a better career, I would say.
And you can get a lot more information about those and trivia about those on NashvilleSoccerArchive.com.
Ooh,
check that out. Look at me. Oh, it's an entertaining league, and there was a lot of stuff going on. Some stuff that definitely affected the standings. Vancouver really good. Sounders still really bad.
Seattle getting 2 red cards was not on my list of things to happen this week, but they seem to be struggling. Dallas seemed to be really struggling. A lot of people were trying to convince me that Dallas is a top 4 team in the West before the season started, and I think I had them like 9th in the West. So I feel a lot better about that guess than the people who had them hosting playoff matches.
Dang, let's go Valair. This is why we follow Valair's coverage, because he's great. And this is why we respect him and don't treat him like crap, as he said and Valaired out.
Unless he's not on the show.
Unless he's not on the show.
Yeah, then start rumors about me. It's fine.
Like, also, y'all, if you do want to call out somebody when it comes to like respectable coverage and like actually want to you can make fun of me. I mean, that's fine. Like, I know most of the things I say are ridiculous.
Oh, speaking of calling out, shout out to the person who was behind me in the Goodwill donation line who told me that he likes the show. I am sorry, I don't remember your name. I think it was Matt, but I might be completely wrong. So I'm sorry, but shout out to you. You know who you are. You made my day better. So thank you for that. Makes me feel very happy.
we always enjoy hearing people say that. Or my favorite is, I recognize your voice. Are you Clay? And I'm just like, yeah. Unfortunately, Steven's moved on. So like if
Yeah,
someone recognizes Steven in Washington from this
Oh,
show,
that'd be even better.
that would
Yeah.
be
that would be
incredible.
amazing. I did get recognized. There was one time I did get recognized, like in Atlanta. I was at a random like a metal show in like a 1,000-person venue, and I go to the bathroom, and somebody walking out of the bathroom says, "Hey, go NSC." I'm like, "Who are you? I'm in Atlanta. What is happening right now?" So that was kind of funny. But anyways, one of the games that happened last night was the team that we are playing against on Saturday at home. San Jose Earthquakes was definitely expected to have a better year than they are currently having. But they are dealing with some injuries and some other problems as well. Look, I think the question I have, we all know San Jose is bad. San Jose is a team that is beatable that Nashville can beat. I don't, I think just for just validity's sake and just from the outside perspective, is this a must-win game for Nashville SC? Yes or no?
There are almost no must-win games in MLS regular season. I'll be honest with you, especially not game number 9 or 10 or whatever this is. But it's a must-win if you don't want the fans to boo you at home. Let's put it that way.
I think this is the closest to a must-win game that doesn't have playoff implications that you can get. I don't think anything's a must-win, especially in April, in Nashville SC, like in an MLS season. But I think that Nashville's got this problem, right? This perception problem. Like people perceive Nashville in a certain way locally. And the worst case scenario for Nashville SC is for things to move into apathy, because a lot of the things that Nashville SC uses to promote its club is how excited its fans are and what the environment is like. And if that starts to fade, you can't sell them on being one of the best teams in the league, and then you can't sell on having that sort of environment, because that does start to fade if your team is not performing on the field. Just it is what it is. It happens. And so going out and losing to San Jose has a very probably real effect on that. And it's more of an effect with other things. So if they go to lose San Jose and nobody gets fired or anything like that, but they win the next week, you can start to reclaim it because it is MLS. It's a long season, plenty of games to play, plenty of ways to make up for it. But with the way things are right now, coming after the last month, if you do not beat the best team in the league at home, and there's no Open Cup. There's nothing that you can Leagues Cup in a few months where you can try and rebuild that momentum. I don't know that you're going to be able to rebuild it for a long time. You have to win your home games, generally speaking, but you definitely have to win your home games against the worst teams in the league.
And you've heard us talk about how bad San Jose are. I mean, they have dished out 24 goals. They've conceded 24 goals in 9 matches. That's 2.6 goals a game. That's what they've given up. Now, to be fair, they've scored a good amount of goals. They have 13 goals. I mean, it's not a good amount. I guess good amount is a strong word, but it's a respectable amount of goals. But they have a negative 11 goal difference. And that's the worst in the league. They've given up 24 goals. Again, worst in the league. They've lost all 5 of their away matches this year. They've lost 3 home matches, and they've only won once against Seattle, who are struggling as well this year. So 1 win in the entire 9 games. They are very bad. And they did make a lot of signings this summer. Well, not a lot, but a couple big signings. Pellegrino, I believe is how it's pronounced. He's a prolific winger from Norway. And he just hasn't been able to maybe hit the ground running as much as they want. Their goalkeeper situation was kind of really bad. So Daniel, the guy who everybody was praising for being the best goalkeeper in MLS, kind of wasn't good, and then he got injured. Then they had a backup, and then the backup got a backup, and he was injured. So it's been a very tough road for their goalkeeper situation. Overall, they're not a good team in any stretch of the imagination. Both the numbers and the eye test can tell you that.
Plugs and predictions, Valer.
First of all, please follow me at Valer Shabilla on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and most importantly, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have a couple of episodes of On Air with Valer, trying to get a third episode in, but the scheduling has been a little tough. But we will have one. We'll have one soon. And if you haven't watched On Air with Valer, please go back and do that. Also, at Kicking is 615 and ki615.org. We're a local nonprofit, and we need your help because we bring soccer to kids who can't afford soccer. Prediction 3-2 Nashville. Goal by Sturridge, goal by Mukhtar, and a goal by Jack Mayer. But it's not going to be an easy win. But Nashville's going to go up 3-1. Sounds like it's going to score a second in like the 80th or so. And then the last 10 minutes, Nashville's going to hold on to the lead.
For me, you can check me out at Clay Lassol on Twitter and Instagram. If you have any stories or things you want to share from Nashville soccer history, please let me know. If you want to contribute to the Nashville Soccer Archive, which is housed at Vanderbilt University, also please let me know. We are building that thing up. So once again, that's at Clay Lassol. And prediction 3-1 Nashville. Nashville's down 1-0 at the half. Honey hat trick in the second half.
At PH Steven HD on all my things. Convince me and help me be my accountability buddy so I go to a Loudon match or just go to something soccer related this weekend. But next week I'll be in Nashville, so I'm excited about that. So can't wait to see all of my friends and people again. I will be going with a 2-0 win for Nashville. We are getting back on getting a shutout, goal from Hani Mukhtar, and a goal from Teal Bunbury. Actually getting a goal as well. Thank you again so much for listening to the show. We appreciate it. We'll be back next week, hopefully talking about a Nashville win. Thank you again so much for listening.